Hey guys, it's PHIA from the Virtual Reality Show, and I'm super excited to do another tutorial video! It's long overdue that I did a video on how to use VRoid Studio, and I am a VRoid model myself, so I thought it was appropriate that I show you guys how I made my model and equipped you with the tools to learn how to do this completely on your own. So to get started over here, let's take a look over at the VRoid Studio home screen. You can see that it actually is in English, despite being a Japanese program, which is a big plus for us Western VTubers starting off. So if we just scroll down here, we can see a whole bunch of different previews of some of the things you can do with VRoid, and then right here, we can download the newest version, which is still in beta form. So this is updating quite often, so make sure you're always checking back or staying up to date on the VRoid Twitter, which I'll link below, so that you know when new updates do come, because they're always adding crazy new features each time. So I do have a Windows PC, so I'm gonna click here, and you can see that I already downloaded the newest version right down here. And so I'm gonna load it up and get ready to go. Alright, so here I went ahead and opened up a project file for one of my newest commissions that I did. I think she turned out super duper cute, and I think it's a great example of all the different things you can actually do with VRoid Studio. So I'm gonna go over some of the basics of VRoid Studio, but then I'll kind of give you an overview of what I did for this model, so stick around to the very end to see how I can make something like this. So here's the basic default model that you start off with. It is a blank slate, so I'm just gonna walk us through some of the basics here. So starting with the face editor, you can go in here and do all or just select any of the things in particular that you want to do. So I'm going to start with all, zoom in on the face, and you're going to realize that VRoid works very similar to Sims, where I can literally adjust the different facial features just like this, size them however I want, and there's a lot of great control. And before I go any further, you can only go up into the end of the slider, but because you can type things in here, I can actually type in something more, like 5, and then it goes over the top with whatever that slider is supposed to do. So a lot of the time this creates some kind of clipping and different stuff like that. Doesn't necessarily look great, but for anything that you have, you can always do negative or over the top positive with it to get some really interesting results. So then if we hop over to the textures here, you can see that we actually have these texture patterns on the right of the screen, and you have all of these brushes that is pretty much just like Photoshop that you can use to directly edit the different textures. So this one is for her tongue. We are not going to be coloring any tongues today, unfortunately. That's kind of a last resort kind of thing here. But one of the important things is like face skin. So if I come over here, you're going to see this very terrifying skin mask here. And you can edit different things with it. So if I want to go ahead and let's say like I wanted to add some blush, I can bring out this brush, do something like this, and then if I put symmetry on, I can draw on both sides and do some cute blush here. And then you have some different things that you can do after that. You can choose opacity of your brush, width of your brush here, but then I can actually change the opacity of the whole layer, so I can make a nice little like cheek blush effect just like that. Really easy. If I wanted to add another layer, like I usually like to add some cute little shines. So then I could go back in over here and I can use the shift key to drag over to wherever I want to be. And then let's see, I have a white selected and I can make some cute little shiny guys right there. That's kind of what I like to usually do. Add something super cute. You can do the harder brush if you prefer that. Make it really tiny. Some nice little sparkles. Get some really cute little effects like that. So that's just a sample of some of the things you can do. You can obviously go in through all of these different things and add your own textures to them. I usually recommend actually going into Photoshop, so I can show you like here, iris. What you're gonna probably want to do is actually take this default image, and then you're gonna right click it and then click export, and then you can export the file and then load it into Photoshop. I usually like to do it with the guide too and put the guide on a layer, and then you can edit it to your heart's content and get some really cool effects that way, since you are limited here in VRoid to only all the different tools you have on the right. But if you do not have Photoshop or GIMP or whatever, then this is a really good tool. Like my very first PHIA model I did make totally with just click and point. Wasn't exactly the best model, but it worked just fine. So you can't exactly see what I'm doing right now, but I'm just gonna try and scoot over a little bit, and you can see if I right click on these layers, I can do different things to them, like naming them, but I can also toggle the visibility off and on. So I'm just gonna do that with these for now, since we don't necessarily need some pink blush or highlights on this kind of boring model here. So I'm gonna skip over here for now, since that one's a little more complicated, and we're gonna jump over to the body editor. So this one is pretty much exactly the same as the face editor, where you just have all these different options. You can do each of them individually, or you can come over here and just do all of it, and you can do some pretty crazy things, but usually it's better to keep it simple, and you can just do like your legs, make them nice and long, or you can do the boobies, or you can make her shorter if you want. There's also fun things to experiment around with. Then if I go over the textures here, I'm gonna click on default image because it's loading in the head still, and you can see that I've got the base model below here, which is where I would do things like socks, or if I wanted to give her, I don't know, green alien skin, you could just color it in here. You can do her cute undies, all that fun stuff. And you'll see as well that you have these things that are base colors. So as long as you keep the base color white for any of your textures, the texture is going to show exactly as is. But if I come over here and change the base color to something else, you'll see that it actually tints the entire the entire texture itself. So usually it's best to keep those on white completely. And then if you want to change up some of the shading, you can do it with the shade color here. I like to play around with this quite often, especially with the hair, and you can do really cool effects. Like let's say like I wanted some pink. Ooh, look at that, very pretty. Or if I wanted her to look like she's in blue light all the time, maybe she's a mermaid, I can do like a light kind of blue tint to her, you know, so maybe she's got like, you know, mermaid tail or different things, and you can add some cool effects that ways. So now let's hop over to clothes. Clothes is the fun part. It also is a very terrifying part. So you can see we've got some different presets right here. Base model just makes her naked, but it is very Ken doll, so luckily it is TOS, we can get away with it. But there's also some different fun things, like if I wanted to do uniform pants. Ooh, nice. And then I can come over here and there's a whole bunch of different things, like, oh, I can do a t-shirt, or I can do a coat. And then you have all these different features that you can actually change on the clothes itself, kind of like you did with the different body parts before. So I can do things like this shoulder puff, I can pull it out, and poof, pretty princess, very nice. And then I can come down here and there's different things I can do, like, ooh, I want the hem crease to go more in. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see now it's starting to clip with the pants. If I want to do it more A-line, woo, wow, look at that, very A-liney. And then you can do things, you know, same with the pants, you can do different kinds of shoes, accessories, so I won't go over all those since it's pretty self-explanatory. I'm gonna get rid of this accessory. There's not a lot of accessory features right now, but that's something that'll hopefully come in the future here. So now the fun part is when you go into texture, and that's how you make the really cool stuff in VRoid, the different cool like clothing things. So I've got my texture here for the clothes, and if I go to default image, how you can turn something like this into something totally different, like the shirt that I'm wearing right now, is by literally going and erasing the texture itself. And again, this is so much easier to do if you just have Photoshop, but you can see I can literally just erase the texture and now it's all short. So I can change the different links, or if I wanted to get rid of the sleeves, like maybe I like this cool like sleeveless look, I don't know, wife beater kind of thing, then I'll just get rid of that. Of course, if I was doing this for real, I'd do it a lot more cleanly to make sure I got rid of all the little bits and pieces here, but that's kind of an idea of the different things you can do. So I'm gonna go back and put the regular skirt outfit back on, but all of this different stuff is customizable. You can change all the colors. If you put it in Photoshop, you can put logos on it. Lots of fun stuff you can do. It's really customizable and great if you don't have any 3D modeling experience. So now is the part that scares people away the most, and that is the hair editor. So I'm gonna give you a little rundown of some of the things you can do, but I'm not gonna go too much in depth because that really does deserve a whole video on its own. So just from a basic understanding, you have your presets, which you probably won't need when you're starting off, and then your hair groups. So if I click on my base hair over here, you'll see it's literally just her scalp. So I'm gonna go ahead and let's say I want to have her some green hair. So I'm gonna make that green. I'm gonna take her shade color, and I'm also gonna make that green with the dropper tool, and I'm gonna darken it just a bit here. And voila, wow, look at that. Some nice green looking hair so far. So now I'm gonna add something called a freehand group. So a freehand group is literally how you're going to draw the individual hair strands onto your model. The procedural group is when it literally spawns these hairs on it for you, but I don't know a single person that actually uses this. It's kind of useless, and it's better to just draw them on yourself, genuinely. So I'm gonna delete that and come back to the freehand group. So you're gonna see that there's a bunch of these little green dots everywhere, and that means I can literally shape this freehand group any way I want. And it's basically going to act as the guide for my hair. So I can do the mirror option here, and it'll mirror what I do on both sides, which is obviously very, very handy. So let's go ahead, and I'm gonna add a regular freehand group again. But you'll see if I have this one selected, I can do add freehand group, and then it stays just the same, which is really, really cool. So I'm gonna come back over here and show you kind of an example. So I pick the brush tool, and I can draw on some separate hair. So I always start with the bangs. I take the mirror tool off, and then you can just very easily draw things on, okay? So here's kind of how it would look. If you come over here, you can change the texture parameters. So you can see that that's being changed. But I can also change things like the thickness and the width. So very quickly, I'm just gonna draw some little ones kind of in between, just so you can kind of see how this works. And then if you look over here, so this one kind of turned out a bit crooked, right? So I could select it and then delete it, but that seems like a bit of waste. So I'm actually going to click over here to the control points, and I can do this all individually by hand and make it look nice and even. Look at that. And yeah, so there's lots of different things you can do with hair. I will love to make a video going over all these different things eventually to maximize the look of your VRoid's hair, since it is a pain in the butt. But that's a quick, simple demonstration of it. So hair bones is basically the physics that your hair uses, like when you're in the wind or when you're running and stuff. It doesn't actually have bones in it, unfortunately. This is boneless hair. But if we go over to texture here, we can go ahead and get a good look at what texture is on the VRoid right now. So you can see that the base color right here is changed to green. It always starts off as white, and I recommend, if possible, to actually just draw the color on here yourself and leave it white. What you can do to kind of work around this from having the base hair stay white is if I come over here and I have this and it's on the white, but it's using yellow texture, I'm going to duplicate it, change it to that, and then if I click over here, I can now change the base hair color to whatever I want. So you'll see, since I changed this one, it's staying on the white texture, which is yellow, but the rest of this is changing to whatever I want it to be. And I can even eyedrop it. Oop. And make it perfect. So there you go. That's a quick rundown of some of how that's done. All right, so now for the general editor, we have our nice banana yellow haired girl right now looking super edgy. And you'll take a look that the first option here is outline. The entire model has this very anime line around it. Now, you can make this thicker if you want for a more intense anime kind of drawing look. I personally think a really thick line looks fantastic, or no line at all looks super clean. Now, you can leave it on the basic one if you want, but I do think it looks pretty so maybe experiment around with this. It's a really good way to up your VRoid quality instantly. So now if I come over here to the rim light, you can actually adjust that on the model. So if I want something really matte, I'm literally gonna just slide this down to 0, and you know, it's just the color is there, and that's that. But if I want to do something nice and shiny, I can kind of up these a bit. I can do nice and strong. And then the more compression I have, the more it kind of just acts like an outline. And then you can do the exact same thing on the body here as well. And I think you can add some really cool effects to toy around with. And I think most people skip over this kind of stuff, even though it's really important. Same thing with the different shading. You can kind of adjust just the general look of your VRoid this way. Definitely gives you a unique style. Eye excursion, probably don't want to mess with. It'll make your eyes look pretty derpy, let's just say that. I'll change that back. All right, spring bones. So special little thing I do want to point out here is that if you do want to use this model in virtual cast, well, there was an update. So you have to come up here to where it says prevent excessive motion by locomotion and uncheck this, because if you don't, your model will literally start spazzing out. All of the hair bones, all of the clothing, the physics just look really terrible in virtual cast. So just uncheck this and you'll save yourself the problem. So now let's hop over to the camera exporter thing. So this is going to be the most fun part of doing a model, is you get to do all your facial expressions, looking super cute. You can change your background this way. So I usually like to do green screens, which here is the code for that, which is what I use for doing my thumbnails. And I can adjust the way she looks in here. Then I can adjust the pose. There's a whole bunch of default animations that you can do. There's guy ones, there's girl ones. I always like to do running when I'm testing out hair physics. And if I go over here to pose, I have some preset ones. And then I can actually adjust these however I want, which is absolutely fantastic. It's the quickest and easiest way to get anything done. I usually do default and then kind of work from there. And you can make some really cute shots to show off your model for whatever you're using it for. So then over here you can do your lighting, you can do your wind effects for the hair and the clothes. We'll stop that. Oh, actually I'm gonna reset. So post effects, I always go in here and click hi. You can do some cool things like with the bloom, change the colors, add some blur, really great stuff to customize some extra cool photos. Then you can do capture size, 4K is the way to go. Always. And then export. So this is how you're going to get your model out of VRoid Studio, and this is important, so make sure you listen here. So if you have problems optimizing your avatar and you're trying to get it into like VR chat, if you're following my other video, well, you can do different things here to make your mesh go down. You can do things to reduce your materials, make it just a 2. Or you can just do bone reduction in general. The only one I'd really recommend doing is the material reduction and doing it down to 2. But don't even bother if you're just putting your model into Blender first. You can pretty much do all of that. Do all of that in there a lot more efficiently. But then if I wanted to export the model as a VRM, then I can hit export right here. If I want to put it on the VRoid Hub to share with the world, I can click that and then take some pictures, make her look super cute, and show that off for everyone. The final thing you'll always want to do is go ahead and save your model. So I'm going to do a save as, and then I'm going to name this test tutorial model. And I'll just save it just like that, and I can access it at any time I want. So now that I'm done with Banana Lady over here, I'm going to switch over to my other model that I promised you guys you would take a look at. So you can see that I've adjusted a whole bunch of things like the eye shape, and I've done the eye texture here. And what a lot of people don't do that I notice, and I don't necessarily have this on my PHIA model yet, is that you can actually change the texture of the eyeline and the eyelashes, which is really, really great. You can see on the face texture, I added some pink underneath just to kind of give a little bit of shadow. And then for my hair, I'll show you that I have all these different bone groups, and when I go over here to the camera, I can go over to pose and animation, and here's the running animation that I use to test all the hair physics. So I did layers upon layers upon layers, and it made them voluptuous and beautiful. I spent a lot of time on it, and I added some little rainbow texture to her hair, and I made each of those individual textures, and I even made some cute ears using hair. So hair is very useful for making things in general. It doesn't necessarily have to look like hair. You can just use it to mold whatever the heck you want. But you can see as far as the skirt texture goes here too, I actually added depth myself. There isn't any depth features in VRoid. The only exception is that I put a skirt underneath the skirt. But you cannot stack a whole bunch of clothes on top of each other. You're basically limited to one type of pants and then one type of top, which can be a dress. You'll see I also gave this cutie a cute little tail. It's super adorable. I love the way that this model turned out for so many different reasons. But this just goes to show how if you know how to use VRoid right, you can make some really, really cute models come to life. Well guys, thank you so much for watching my tutorial video today. I appreciate having you here. And make sure you let me know in the comments below what kind of tutorial you want to see next so that I can help you, whether that's with hair or body clothing or whatever, to get your Vtubing model ready to go. And if you have specific questions about VTubing that you'd like to have answered, then make sure you join my Discord, link in the description, because we actually have an entire channel of it dedicated to answering VTubing questions since we get so many all the time. It's a really great place to start off, but also to make more VTubing friends, so you definitely don't want to miss out on that. Oh, and I'm also trying to get partnered on Twitch right now, so please check out my channel and drop me a follow and join in on my next stream so that you can help me out with that. It would really help me a lot in my VTuber endeavors, so I really hope to see you there. Thanks again for stopping by, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.